everyone, Sabrina here and I'm vlogging for gbposters.com, and I'm back with another gaming related vlog. Today I'm going to be talking about Max Payne 3, and for me personally Max Payne 3 was one of my most anticipated games of this year, so I was really excited to play it, so I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts with you today. First of all, those of you who are familiar with the previous Max Payne games will know about the general theme that the games hold, this noir feel, this very dark and bleak atmosphere that the previous games had, especially with the snowy town and Max being an ex-cop and seeking revenge for the death of his family members. And that's the general theme of the first two games. In the third game, before the game was released, a lot of people were worried that maybe the noir feel would be lost because the game, rather than being set in the snowy streets of New York, it was set in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So it was a complete opposite atmosphere. But I feel personally that the noir feel was not lost at all. I personally feel that the narrative was one of the game's strongest points, and it's what compels the gamer to continue playing, even though at times the game did feel a little bit frustrating. For example, some of the checkpoints throughout the game were spaced quite far apart, so the game did seem at sometimes very challenging. And I personally enjoy a challenge, but I did find myself feeling very frustrated at various parts throughout the game because, yeah, you'll get through nearly towards the end of a checkpoint and then suddenly die, and then having to go back through these hordes of enemies again. So that's one thing that I would say that perhaps will bother some gamers who play the game, is basically the checkpoint system. But I don't think it's enough to stop you from enjoying the game. One thing that I felt that Rockstar did perfectly in the game was create so much detail. For example, Max, when he would pick up a painkiller, he'd always have a witty line to say or something amusing. The script was perfectly written, and it's really what keeps the story going, and you really want to know what Max is thinking or what he's feeling or what's going to happen to him. You really feel that you care about the character and you care about where the story is heading. It's not, although it's a very action-packed and very violent game, that's not all that keeps you going. It's not just all killing and chaos. There's also a very strong, solid story behind it, and that's ultimately what makes you want to go through the whole game and complete it. The game in itself is very well structured as well. The gameplay is quite linear, but I don't think that harmed the gameplay at all. It actually suited the game because it has a quite fast, action-paced feel to it. So although there's little room for exploration, for sometimes you want to find things like golden guns throughout the game, I don't feel that anything was lost. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that I thought the soundtrack was fantastic throughout the game. It suited it immensely, and the music, for me personally, and the sound design within games is extremely important. It's what fuels the emotional drive and what makes you really feel that tense feeling or anxiety or whatever the game is trying to emphasize on the player. So I thought the soundtrack was perfect, and it didn't sound very mainstream, which I liked. It sounded very different from a lot of soundtracks that I heard in current games that have been released. Also, those of you who are familiar with Max Payne 1 and 2 will know about the game's shoot, dodge and bullet time features, which are really one of the main focal features of the Max Payne series and what really made it stand out. And the Max Payne games are one of the first games to really use this bullet time sequences throughout firefights and combat. So they still implemented this into Max Payne 3, and it worked wonderfully, and it's one of the things that I enjoyed the most in the gameplay. Throughout playing the game, I had so much fun using the slow motion feature throughout combat. There's nothing more fun than jumping down stairs in slow motion and shooting enemies. The gameplay is fantastic and, yeah, very addictive as well. I found myself playing hours on end because I felt that the fast-paced gameplay suited me perfectly. I just loved it. The game gives a fantastic balance of both fast-paced action and also very compelling narrative. Another thing I wanted to mention about Max Payne 3 was that in Max Payne 1 and 2, those of you who have played it, you'll be familiar with the narrative being displayed to the gamer through these various comic book style artwork and voiceovers. So in this game they included in-game cutscenes, which I think was perfect for the current generation games because that's the norm now. So I felt they'd done it perfectly. At first I wasn't sure what to expect because I had played the first Max Payne, so I felt that the comic book style narrative storytelling element was something that really was unique to the Max Payne games and really made them a Max Payne game, but even though they weren't included in Max Payne 3, it still felt very true to the franchise, to the series. So they don't include that, but they do include in-game cutscenes, and the cutscenes are very fluid throughout the game. Throughout the game you'll find yourself in constant battle, firefight, and then seamlessly streaming into cutscenes and then in and out of cutscenes, but it worked very well. The cutscenes are very frequent because it has a very strong story, but it doesn't affect the gameplay in my opinion at all. Maybe some gamers might find this a little bit intrusive as these cutscenes become quite frequent, but the way in which they are intertwined with the gameplay I think goes very well, and you do grow used to it and you do feel very compelled to want to see these cutscenes, so I don't think it harmed the gameplay in any way. Another thing that I wanted to mention as well, that throughout these cutscenes you will see visually there's a lot of distortions in the visuals and a lot of filters, and I think these were done for more cinematic effect, and I felt personally they were quite successful in creating that very bleak, very gritty atmosphere of the game. And in a way it really represents Max's state of mind, because Max in Max Payne 3 has a very large alcohol and painkiller addiction problem, so it really reflects the way in which he must see things, you know, because he seems to be living in this very hazy, bleak world, intoxicated with alcohol and such. So I think it worked perfectly, and I know why they did it. So when I was playing the game I really felt that I was being immersed into the game and in a way put into Max's shoes. The voice acting as well was very well done, and one thing that I must say that I noticed, there's a part in the game where you're in Panama in South America, and I do remember overhearing the voice actors who were speaking Spanish, and because I speak fluent Spanish I could understand what they said, and I was very impressed that the accent was perfect, the script was perfect even in the other languages and in Portuguese as well. It was so detailed and so well written. Overall I really enjoyed Max Payne 3, and I felt that although there was a few frustrating moments and I did find myself getting a little bit annoyed at the fact that the checkpoints, you know, the autosave sections were quite far apart, so at times you did find yourself having to go back a long way and replaying certain parts of the game many times over to get it right. And other few frustrating things, such as Max, sometimes I would want him to take cover behind a certain wall and he would take cover on the opposite wall. So there was little things that did frustrate me in the game, just design aspects a little bit here and there. But overall I think that the game is fantastic, the narrative is fantastic, I loved the storytelling aspect. I'm a very story driven gamer, so I felt that this was a very fulfilling game to play and very action packed, very memorable as well. So I do recommend Max Payne 3 to any of you, and I will say that even if you haven't played Max Payne 1 and 2, I do recommend the game. You will still enjoy it. The story is perfectly suited for new Max Payne players or gamers who have been a fan of the franchise for many years. So yes, do play the game, because I know a lot of people have asked me that, should I play Max Payne 3? I haven't played the first two. Yes, play it, you'll enjoy it. And yeah, those are my thoughts on Max Payne 3. Thank you for watching, and I'll put a link here on the screen to my personal YouTube channel if you want to watch my other videos, and I'll continue posting more gaming related vlogs here on GB Poster's channel. So thank you and bye!